Yeah, basically like
I
you're.
do whisper a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
Even on stage, you do.
Yes.
I was gonna say talk like you're on stage, but that wouldn't help.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you got a nice spot going here, dude. I like this.
Thank you. I pay $9,000 a month for it.
9,000. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good, man. Sounds like a good deal.
I was making a joke and you went along with it, and I appreciate that.
No problem. I know. I understand. Yes, and
Yeah.
I do. I'm terrible at improvising, but I'm pretty good at yes and.
It's a different type of muscle. That's was my start in comedy. I was doing improv at UCB. And then
oh, that's right. Yeah, because you're originally from the Bronx, right?
Yeah, thank you for getting it right. Most people say Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, you're definitely a Bronx man. You don't strike me as you're an old school Bronx guy. Maybe nowadays I'd think Brooklyn, but I know you were up there when you were a kid. So
yeah, well, this was actually after going to community college in Pennsylvania. I went back to live with my grandmother's in Bronx and. Did some UCB stuff, and then it was cool. Met a lot of cool people. One of my best friends from there. Shout out to Jason.
Shout out Jason.
Yeah, shout out to Jason. What up, man?
Make sure you listen to this podcast.
Oh, he will. And then I just kind of gravitated from started doing stand up from there. One of my first stand up sets was actually while taking the class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
Do they do like a focus on both, or is it mostly improv?
Oh no, it's all improv. Like the UCB class was improv, but me and another person in the class, Eliza Hertzwitz, actually, we did our first stand-up sets together. Not together, but on the same night at the comic strip in New York.
Oh, okay. That's a reputable name for sure.
It's one of those things where you don't recognize that when you're first starting, you don't know, like, oh, you just go to a mic for free. This one was like, you pay $14, you get to bring 5 people, they pay money, and you have to get drinks. And it's like your first time doing it.
Yeah, bringers. It's for new comics out there, any new comics listening, anytime someone tells you that you need to bring people to an open mic or pay to perform at an open mic, that's a scam. That's a racket. You don't want to be involved in that for your first show.
Yeah,
but there is a lot of that in bigger cities.
Yeah, and the one benefit with this is that, like, the person putting it together, she provided, like, guidance, and you get, like, a tape out of it, which at the time I was like, that was pretty cool. And, She spoke with me on the phone for, like, an hour before my first set just to talk about comedy and what I'm trying to do with it.
Okay, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did something similar. The only show I've been on in New York, I was at Eastville Comedy Club.
Oh, yeah.
With Ron Heron.
The Dungeon.
Yeah, and that was the old building. That was the old one. The one that was in Midtown, I guess, or like Third Avenue, something like that. I don't know New York. I really don't. I've only been there a handful of times. The first time I was there for a concert with my girlfriend in high school, and I had only really been to Philly, and I hadn't been to Philly a lot at that point. So, I grew up in good old Lebanon, Pennsylvania. I wasn't a big city boy.
Oh yeah.
And I got there and I felt claustrophobic. Like I felt like I was in a canyon because we were right in Midtown Manhattan.
Were you in high school at this time, or was it just a girl that you dated for a
while?
No,
I was in high school at the time. And fun story, she broke up with me after that concert.
She was like, I need to be in open spaces and you're a little bit too claustrophobic.
I think it was more she was ready to break up with me before that. But she had bought me tickets to this concert for my birthday, and we were like, her whole family was going for something else, but that's how we got up there, like rode up with her family and everything. And I mean, we still had a good time. It was a really good concert. It was like one of the first like big concerts that I went to, like actual concert, not just like some local punk band in a fire hall, you know?
Andrew, I gotta tell you, there was nothing fun about that story. You preface it with like, I'm gonna tell you a fun story.
It's fun to me now.
I put on my suspenders, I got my slinky out, I was ready for a fun story. And you told me a very sad story about your ex-girlfriend and her very traveling family.
What in the time that you've known me and the times that you've seen me tell jokes on stage, when have I ever really told fun stories? When have I done something that's not actually just inherently sad?
Which is why you should stop prefacing it with, because I got real prepared. I was like, whoa, Andrew's made a turn. He is not. It's continuation. No, I feel like you got some fun stories. You got some fun banter when I see you off the mics and all that stuff. I'm able to talk to you about a lot of things that I'm not able to talk to with other comics.
Oh, I appreciate
you're
that.
Educated. You talk about books, movies. I feel like I could have a good ghost conversation with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't read as much as I have in the past anymore. But I did see that you got some Dostoevsky over there.
Oh yeah, I'm keeping it kind of under wraps because like I tell like people like I see face to face, but like I'm worried that if I advertise it, someone's gonna spoil it for me.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So we won't say the name of the book. Just know that it's popping off.
It's a classy book though.
It's wild. It is wild.
Yeah.
I won't even get into it. Hit me back up in like 6 months when I'm nearly done with it. And,
yeah. All right. Cool. I'm gonna do my intro now, and we'll get into the actual podcast.
What?
All right.
Do you want me to do like a beatboxing thing? Do you want any music or anything like that?
I do a lot of posts on this.
I have a stereo in the back. I can bring it out here.
Okay. Can we get some like Mozart playing in the background just slightly? Like this is inside the act. No. Okay, I'm sorry.
I only have trap music.
only trap music.
Yes.
Damn, I can't get I don't know rap terms, unfortunately.
It's funny enough, all the trap music that I have is from an artist named Mozart. So yeah.
Spelled with a $. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Human Interaction Podcast. I am your host, Andrew Hambone Hambleton. Today I'm hanging out in the living room with Kirk Griffiths.
Wow.
Your last name is pluralized, right? There is an S on it. You are multiple Griffiths.
Yeah, I'm twins.
Okay. Twins.
Yeah. No, that's yes, no, it is Kirk Griffiths, and you're one of the first guests at my new place. You're like guest number. After last night, you're guest number 8, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, well, now that I started doing this podcast, I've had more than 8 people over at my house, but for the whole 2 years that I lived there, it was like family members, and that's it. Like no one really ever came to hang out with me besides like really, really close friends.
Is that code for strippers?
No.
Oh.
Prostitutes.
Oh man, you didn't have any honey dips come over? Or you meet them at the bar, like, hey, what's going on, Charlotte?
I mean, I had one girl came over and like spent the night, but nothing. We just slept next to each other.
That's
nothing
nice.
happened.
Oh,
it was nice, and she's still a really good friend of mine. Actually, I've been trying to get her to come on the cast for months.
What's the deal? Why won't you do it? Why won't you do it? I don't want to put your business out there, but why won't you do it?
Oh, I think it just hasn't worked out, and we're both Libras, so it becomes very difficult for either of us to make a decision.
Is that the thing with Libras? Are they indecisive?
I've read that when you have 2 Libras together in a situation, like specifically relationships or like having to make a decision of some sort,
I don't know.
Where Libras are very acquiescent. So
I like that line.
Yeah. So we always try to like, no one will make a decision because we don't want the other people to feel forced into doing something. And yeah, that's what I've read. I'm not really that into astrology.
Sounds like it.
Just talking about this with Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie.
Shout out Jackie, DJ Jackie Ben.
I'm talking about Jackie Chan.
Oh, we were talking about different Jackies. I was talking about Jackie Brown.
Okay.
No, I was talking about this because she is also a Libra, and we were.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we were. You're like, oh yeah, knowing the two of you, it definitely makes sense now. No, but she. We were just talking about that, and that's why I was kind of surprised at how easily our conversation flowed, because we were Again, I don't know her that well. I don't know a lot of people that well. I don't really know you that well. We've just known each other for a long time.
A good 3 years.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean,
more.
Yeah, because you were doing comedy when I started. You were coming around the lounge, which was almost 5 years ago. So,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first night I went to lounge, there was only like 7 people and you were one of them.
Mm-hmm. It sounds about right.
That was when they had it in the back room where the arcade is now, the old stage. It was you, Manny, Ryan Meehan, Lemaire, Wes, some other open micer, Shane Gillis, and T. That was my first experience at Lizard Lounge.
Gillis was there?
Yeah.
Huh. Because I thought he moved to Philly like right before I started doing comedy.
I don't think he was living in Lancaster, but he was there.
Yeah, maybe that was one of the nights that him and McCusker came down and dropped some fame on us.
Oh.
Even though he wasn't famous at that point yet. He had just moved to Philly. But yeah, that's interesting. Because I remember you being one of the 5 comics that was a regular at Reading Comedy Outlet.
That's right, yeah.
When Andy was Andy there at the lounge, probody Malafarina?
No, not that night, but
Okay.
he's been there a bunch because I started going regularly after that. But yeah, the Reading Outlet, that's true.
Yeah, those were the days of comedy, man. When we were all actually like friends hanging out. Like now, not that I don't enjoy the people in the local scene and everything, and that we're not friendly with each other, but Lemaire specifically, I feel like he became like one of my closest friends just from doing comedy, and Pat too. That kind of dynamic changed a little bit when Lemaire moved and when I was on house arrest and in jail and like
I forgot about that part.
I didn't get to like see anybody or hang out, and then you kind of people just kind of forget about you when you're not around in comedy anyway. It's a very, very high turnover industry for sure.
Yeah, I guess with open mics that could be a thing, but for me, there's not a lot of people from comedy scene that I would consider like friends. That's not to say a knock on them. Let's just in terms of I have a definition of friends versus acquaintanceship. Yeah. But the ones that are friends, even if I don't see them, I still feel connected. Like I would be like, oh, I could call that person, or if I see them on the street, it's still there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still occasionally, like Lemaire, I still text him every once in a while, just like, yo, what's going on? Or like, if he's coming into Lancaster, he'll be like, yo, I'm coming to Lancaster, let's hang out, stuff like that. So,
man.
We're still buddies for sure.
Who do you hate?
Who do I hate?
Yeah, man.
I don't know if I don't hate anybody.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't have the energy to hate people.
I hate Kyle Neff. Kyle Neff, if you're listening. No, I'm just joking. Shout out to Kyle Neff.
Oh man, Kyle Neff. One of my better episodes, actually, the one with Kyle. So
nice.
Don't listen to Kirk. Don't listen to him, Kyle. If you're listening, which he's probably not. I don't have a lot of listeners on this podcast. So
Kyle and I are enemies, so we don't listen to each other's content.
Has he been on yours? By the way, Kirk is one half of the Proper Ebonics team.
Podcast Proper Ebonics with co-host Alan Massenberg and Kirk Griffiths. It's cool. We've been doing it for about 2 years now.
Really? It's been that long? Well, you guys don't release an episode every week, so
no, it's not a week one. We have to coordinate between 3 people. So,
right.
Yeah, but we've been doing it more frequently recently and all that. We have a good time with it, and we put on our first live show at the Chameleon Club last month. A good turnout, better than we both expected.
Awesome.
Like we were both excited about it, but then like it actually happened. We're like, oh snap, this is so that it was definitely cool to see people come out for that. So
good, man. Yeah, that makes me happy to hear because I missed it. I wanted to be there, and I was planning on being there, and then schedule just it was my mom's birthday. I told you guys that. Alan's response when I told him that was, "Man, fuck your mom."
I would have just been like, "Bring your mom."
Yeah,
it's like, oh, here's a unique gift.
Well, there was also my uncle was in the hospital and dying at the time. It's just there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Life happens. I'll get to the next one. I'm sure you'll do another one.
We will. We will. Yeah.
Did you guys do like stand up beforehand too?
We did it after.
Okay.
Him and I didn't plan on doing stand up, but the audience, they needed it. They required. They're like, we want to see you guys, and we were like, okay, we can do this. And
people pleasers.
Yeah, so we're a podcast all about the streets, and the streets wanted it that night, so we gave it to them. We gave it to them. One of the first podcasts I ever did was Pat George's Gross Domesticated podcast, and you were on it.
Yeah, actually, I was. Out of curiosity, I Google myself sometimes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I told I'm a narcissistic sociopath, but
you say that loosely, but I don't believe you.
No, I have not ever been diagnosed, and I'm sure the fact that I'm afraid that I'm either of those things means that I'm not either of those things.
Probably. There's a lot of self-awareness in it to be a narcissist, let alone a sociopath.
Right. So, but I Googled myself. I Googled Andrew Hamilton podcast because I wanted to see if someone was looking for me for some reason or Googling my name, like what would come up.
Yeah.
And the two episodes of GDP came up and one of Buddha Boys. Okay. But the first one that came up was the one with you. A late night, I believe that was after.
It was after Midtown Scholar in Harrisburg.
Yeah. I wore pants that night. That was the big thing.
Oh.
Because I bombed 2 times before that. Pat gave me guest spots, and I was wearing shorts, and I bombed, and I wore pants that night and did very well. And he was trying to drive it home that you don't wear shorts on stage, Hambone. And I still disagree with that sentiment, but
wearing shorts on stage?
I disagree that it matters.
No, it's one of those things where it's just like a humorous thing that people go off of. I don't think it's appropriate for any sort of event, like if you're doing a show.
Yeah, but an open mic or in a bookstore. Like if you're doing like a real show, not that those weren't real shows, but we were literally out on the street barking at people trying to get them to come in all the time. It wasn't like
but people came to it though.
Oh yeah. There were times I think the best turnout was Damien when I was on with Damien Robinson because that dude doesn't give a shit. He's just out on the street like yelling at people like, "Yo, free comedy, like come in, come on." And people listen to him because I guess he seems intimidating. I don't know.
Have you had Damien on here before?
No, not yet. We keep talking. There's a lot of the local comics that I'm like, I'll see him at open mics or whatever, and I'll be like, "Hey, I gotta get you on the podcast. Come hang out." And then they're like, "Yeah, just send me a message or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay," and then I never do it. And then because I get weird about actually like asking someone to come on and hang out because. I don't know. It feels egotistical, to be like, "Hey, we're so cool, like come." And I've gone over this a million times on this podcast where I feel I know it's a stupid idea. If you want to have a podcast and you want to have guests, you have to ask people to come on your podcast. That's just how it works, you know?
Well, also there's the idea of a lot of times when you ask someone for a favor or have them do something like that, they look at you in a good way. They don't see it as egotistical. They see it as like, oh, you value my insight and appreciate my being. So they're probably not looking at it from that perspective.
Right.
I will say with this one, I think I was the one that had to put the date down. Because I was like, because you mentioned it a few times. I was like, I think it would be cool. And I was like, I don't know if he's going to put a date. So I was like, all right, here's a date that we can do this.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. Like my schedule is generally pretty wide open, like after work. So I'm always, if people want to do it, I'm like, look, just pick a day. Again, like I said to you, I can come to you. We don't have to do it in Lancaster at my house. I can take this anywhere.
You're a man of your word. We're in everyone.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell anybody. I'm going to bleep that out.
Yo, bleep that out. I don't want them knowing where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to Transylvania, everyone.
That's better. Oh, man, that would be sweet. On location in like Dracula's castle.
Are we not in a castle right now? I tell myself that. Like, so we have these very narrow hallways in here.
Yeah.
Sometimes at
nighttime, well, you do have the arches too. It's very
yeah, and it's like it goes down pretty deep into the dining room. There's times at night when everyone's asleep. I get a candle and I roam the hallway. I pretend like I'm impersonating my grandfather. I assume that was something he would do.
I mean, I could picture you. I think you'd look good with a little like gray in your beard and your hair, dude.
Yeah, I know I'd look good in gray.
I mean, I think you could pull it off,
I think
like an Uncle Drew type thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I don't. People get freaked out with aging, and growing up, I always thought it was like a societal thing that women worried about. But I'm realizing now men get it too.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't worry about aging. I see it as wisdom. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm still going.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. So if I get gray, very nice.
Right. My problem is that I will not go gray. I'm just gonna lose all my I'm just gonna go bald. I'm already going bald.
Okay. Rock some baldness, man.
I have never done it. Even when I was a kid, I had the buzz cut. That's just
you were bald as a kid.
Yeah.
As an 8-year-old.
I mean, I've literally had a giant bald spot in the back of my head since 8th grade.
Nice.
Now I have very thin hair that has to do with it as well, but I don't know how I feel about. I'm not giving up on having
hope
a haircut quite yet.
Rogaine, you got to do some Rogaine.
No, I think once I get to a certain, I still have enough where I can pull off an actual hairstyle, but once it gets to the point where I can't really do anything with it anymore, I'm just gonna probably shave it.
That's cool. And if it makes you feel any better, I've never noticed bald spot. I wouldn't think, oh, Andrew, bald. That's.
Well, let's be honest. How many times have you seen me without a hat on?
Yeah, you're right. I guess. Yeah,
I wear a beanie almost 365 days.
Damn, you're right. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which might contribute to me being bald. I don't know. That's an old wives' tale, they say, but I definitely notice there's a ring where because I wear a hat to work too, not a beanie, but a regular a baseball style cap.
That's pretty nice.
And I can definitely tell there's a spot on the back of my head where the hair doesn't grow, just from where the hat's always sitting. So I don't know. I don't know if that has any bearing or if I just have a weird head. I'm gonna go with weird head.
Weird head.
Yeah. That's where I'm leaning with that one, but that's my fear about aging is losing my hair.
Really? Mine's if I had to pick anything is deteriorating body parts. On my knees, they begin to hurt, and so much so that I don't run as much as I used to. I've been using the elliptical, which I feel ridiculous every time I do it. But it's less shock absorbance on your knee, so
right.
Try and get that cardio in.
Yeah, I gotta. My brother's engaged now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Alex, congratulations. Him and his fiance were just at my house this weekend because they were looking at venues in Lancaster.
Oh.
And
there's a good Popeyes on Manor Avenue.
On Manor Avenue? There's a Popeyes there now?
Maybe I'm thinking of a different place in a different state.
Maybe. Because the Popeyes is on Manheim Pike.
That's probably exactly what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Way to call me out on that one.
No problem. I was there. I only know because I was there recently.
Oh.
Because I wanted to get that chicken sandwich. I wanted to finally try it.
And now you're showing off.
It was
I know street names. I could afford Popeyes.
I live in the city. I live in that city. It's not a big deal.
Do you not recognize the oppression my people face? Sometimes we can't have Popeyes, and you're over here with your bald head rubbing in my face, correcting me. Just trying to do the best that I can.
Then I won't give you my review of the Popeyes chicken sandwich.
I don't want to hear your damn review. Maybe just bring one with you next time.
If you let me know, I would have got you one, dude. I can afford 2 Popeyes chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
I don't mean to rub it in. I don't mean to make you feel bad, Kirk. I'm trying to do something nice for you. All you have to do is ask.
I think it's disrespectful that you come in my home and bring up fried chicken like that. I think that's
coupled with the fact that I almost shit my pants when you knocked on my car window.
Yeah, that was wild. That was genuinely kind of wild. It's like, whoa, someone's knocking on my window.
Oh no, young black man. No.
Yeah.
No, I had a couple extra cups of coffee today because I knew I was trying to get a lot done, and so I'm a little jittery. And I'm not used to. I wasn't expecting someone to knock on my window.
Man.
I'm trying to prove that I'm not a racist, Kirk. Please just let me have this one.
I'll try. What's your views on the blacks?
On the blacks?
Yeah, it was just black people in general. African
Oh, I thought you were talking about a family. Like the blacks.
No, I met the African American community. What's your take?
What's my take? My take is that I don't think I really have the right to speak on it. You know, that's not my speech to make.
Okay.
I'm ceding this one to you. No, I like the culture.
Andrew Hambone doing it for the culture on this one.
Yeah, dude. No, I one of my first jokes.
Oh boy.
No, I know, but that was like what made everybody hate me at the Lizard Lounge for a little while. The first like month I was in comedy, Nate Marshall backhanded me.
I vaguely heard stories of that.
Yeah. So just to recap that one, I guess, since it's a fun story, this had nothing to do with racial tensions. This had to do with we were all at RCO. It was
Stuff with Mike and Reading.
Yeah, Reading Comedy Outlet. It was 4th of July, so I had off the next day.
Okay.
So everybody had off the next day because the next day was 4th of July, and they were all like, let's go, whatever the dive bar is that everybody used to go to in Reading.
Yeah. Right on the street from it.
Yeah. So we went there and they invited me and I was like, oh, new friends. Like, I'm going to make friends and blah, blah, blah. Cause I didn't have any, I just started comedy and I was still shy and everything.
Right.
And it was me, Lemaire. I think Jabri was there.
Oh, Jabri.
Good old Jabri.
I thought Jabri in a while.
Yeah. Me, Lemaire, I think Jabri was there. Malafrina, Nate, and I forget Nate's girlfriend's or wife. I forget. Right, they're married now. It's something. His girlfriend was there. And so I forget exactly how it came up, but Nate said something about his girlfriend's titties, and I was a little drunk and trying to make friends, trying to make a joke. I was like, they are some nice titties though, like blah blah blah. But he thought I said those are my titties. And he without delay, he just stood up and straight up backhanded, like WWF backhanded me twice in a row. And like it didn't hurt. He didn't not to talk shit on Nate, but you're a pussy.
Goodness.
He's gonna samurai sword me now. But he backhanded.
The shock of it, I imagine, was
exact. It was more of an emotional pain.
Yeah,
because I was like, oh no, these people hate me now. I cried the whole way home. He goes, you need to leave right now, and I was just like, all right, like stood up, paid my tab, left, got my car, started driving back to Lebanon, which is when I was living in Lebanon, just crying the whole time. Like I just ruined these new friendships. I thought we were all gonna be friends, and they like invited me out, and I fucking blew it. Oh no!
How did you go about clarifying that? Because I know you guys were on better terms when I've met you.
Oh, I think everybody else there like heard what I said and explained it to him then, like afterward. But like it took a little while until he actually like talked to me again. You know.
Oh man.
Because
that's the worst form of miscommunication,
right?
That's awful.
I was complimenting. No, granted.
Yeah, I mean, same time.
Also, I learned not to talk about another man's girlfriend's tits. You know, you gotta know where to draw the line sometimes.
Yeah, that's a rough one with that. Are you guys on better terms? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, I don't even really know. I never really talked to Nate, and he moved pretty soon after that. He moved to New York, to the city. So,
huh.
I don't think there's any beef. I may have just started some by telling him he's a pussy, but I guarantee he doesn't listen to this.
I'm sending him the link.
Do it, dude. And if you want to fight Nate, I don't. So don't take offense to this, please.
No, Nate's a good dude. I mean, maybe there's miscommunication on that, and people grow, just like how you're saying. You recognize that's not something that you do again. Maybe that's on his end. He feels similar. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think there's any bad blood between us. There's certainly none on my part. But like I said, Nate and I were never really like, we never got like to be close friends.
Right.
Probably because of that incident.
I imagine that had.
Yeah, that might have something to do with it. I don't know. I'm no expert. But yeah, but back to back to the original point of that. One of my first jokes about black culture.
Okay.
It was about how like excuse me. It's about how I wanted like I thought black culture was so cool and I wanted to be a part of it. Like I wish I was black. And I was like, let me rephrase that. I wish I was black, but without all the extras that come with it, and yeah, people didn't like that. And then I did, and then it went on to, there's part of the bit that doesn't work if I don't say the N-word. And not in like a Louis C.K. way. It was recounting an actual story from my life with one of my coworkers, and when I lived in LA, and I won't get into it, but it's definitely like it's a joke that I want to give to a black comic because I feel like it could work from the black comic's perspective, but not from the white comic perspective. You know what I mean?
Did you try it out at Mike's? Like, were you out there saying that word on stage
at the Lizard Lounge?
Yeah. Oh yeah, how'd that go over?
It was within like 2 months of me being on stage. It's like rape jokes, N-word. Oh no, this guy, this guy is terrible. Everybody hated me for like 3 months, but I kept like coming back, and I'm like a virus. I'm like a disease. I'm like a fungus. I just grow on you.
Oh goodness, yeah. It's interesting when a lot of people, I should say, when they first start comedy, one of the first routes is to go for like the shock. Not saying necessarily that's what you're doing, but that's concept.
Absolutely what I was doing.
Yeah, and I'm immune to it. Like I definitely had jokes like that. And it's just, doing more and more of it, you recognize that there's ways to get laughs without having to resort to that. You don't feel like you have to.
Right.
I feel like in a lot of ways doing comedy, your sense of humor evolves too, sometimes for the worse. So it's interesting to hear people's like first few bits.
Yeah, I can't even do one of like the first like really good bit that I wrote.
Oh boy,
I can't do anymore because I've heard three like famous comedians do almost the exact same joke.
Oh man.
And it was like the first one was Tosh. Okay. Tosh, it was a half marathon joke, a joke about half marathons and how like when I see that 13.1 sticker on someone's car, I just think, you quitter. Like you only did half the work, and that's pretty much how Tosh delivered it. And it was like a year after I had been working on it, because that bit went into like a big story and everything about the first marathon and this guy named Philippides at the Battle of Marathon who ran 26.2 miles.
I may have seen you do that actually.
Yeah, it was like it was actually the first bit I ever did at the Lizard Lounge.
Oh.
The first night I was there, and
was that
I talk
your
about
first
it.
open mic, by the way.
Yeah, that's the first open mic I went to, which is weird because I lived in Los Angeles and I've always loved stand-up comedy, and I was hooking up with a girl who was doing stand-up comedy in LA.
You were with Lori Kilmartin in LA?
Yeah.
Whoa.
How'd you know? Damn. We'll say it was her because the other girl definitely doesn't want to be associated with me.
Oh,
so,
man. That's wild.
Yeah.
You got with Monique in LA?
Monique.
Wow.
Yeah, she got mad because I didn't pay her enough.
Sure.
She was like, "You paid Laura. Is Laurie Kilmartin white?"
Yeah.
Okay. You paid her more. Okay. Sorry. It was a bad bit.
How dare you disrespect Laurie Kilmartin and the person that I imagine you actually did hook up with, Phyllis Diller. You got with Phyllis Diller while you were with L.A.? Wow.
Yeah, she took pity on me. No, it was. I talked about it, that whole thing, in one of the episodes recently, and
what are some things you haven't talked about?
I end up rehashing a lot on this podcast. I'm not a very interesting person, so when people start asking me about myself, I have like 5 stories that I go to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now I'm sure if you really, probed, I'm a fairly interesting person, but
what is your take on solipsism?
Solipsism, the absence of self.
Well, it'd be the opposite, isn't it? The opposite's more of like the absence of everything around you and only self.
Oh,
exists.
yes. You're right. Absence of self is nirvana. No, yeah. Solipsism is it's actually I've kind of experienced it in bursts at times. Sometimes under the influence of drugs, other times just under the influence of life, shut myself off from the world and just the only thing, sit in one room in my house, and that's all I do for like a week. Solipsistic comas, I believe, is kind of what they're referred to as.
I think that's just depression, dog.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, we can talk about that too, but I feel like you got some stories.
You clearly haven't listened to this podcast at all. First,
I believe it's good. We did talk beforehand how, like, with our commutes being much shorter, we haven't been able to listen to much podcasts.
Yes, yeah.
Have you listened to Proper Ebonics?
We'll see. I can listen at work
because
I just sit at a desk all day, pretty much, and no one really bothers me. So I actually have a really, really large rotation of podcasts right now, but you guys work in there for sure.
Oh, well, shout out to Andrew.
Yeah, I heard my shout out on the was that the most recent episode? Did you release another one yet?
I think there's some second to
okay. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we did. I forgot about that.
That's a funny little joke since Pat fired me as the intern for Buddha Boys. Pat George is the producer for Kirk's podcast too. Well, if you want to call it that, producer, I guess. But
yeah, no, we definitely, the work that he does is definitely it's producer level.
Yeah. So he I was on his older podcast. They had asked me to be like an intern in studio producer type person, and I got fired because apparently I wasn't dedicated enough. And Kirk and Alan were talking about how they need an intern, and
I kind of just pulled that name out randomly.
They gave me a ham bone if you're listening, and I was like, "Yo, I'm listening," because you told me that you shout me out in this episode. That's really the only reason I listen to anything is if I can hear my own voice.
Yeah,
so
that's wild. No, it's funny. You messaged me about something, maybe about this podcast.
I think it was we were talking about
on a post for.
No. You had just posted in your story about the episode.
Yeah,
and I liked
and
it.
I was like, oh, interesting. You get a shout out on this one, right? Like right up top.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool doing that. I'm sorry you got fired, sort of thing like that. But it looks like you took own reins and you're doing your own thing now.
I am doing my own thing.
Man. You're traveling out here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you. You're like the third or fourth person who has complimented me on my work ethic for this, and what I always say is I don't know where the dedication is and motivation is for anything else in my life, but for this, for some reason, I'm like, yeah, I'll drive. I used to do it with stand up too. I used to drive down to Philly every night, do like 3 mics a night.
I remember I'd see you at Wanker Wednesdays.
Oh yeah. I used to see Malafarina there a lot too, but he stopped coming around. He's strictly North Jersey and New York now. It looks like.
Maybe a little bit closer for him.
Yeah.
On that end.
But yeah, I used to go to that one a lot, Wanker Wednesdays, and now they changed it. Now it's just Free House Comedy.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while.
I mean, all the guys that host over there are great still. The people who ran Wanker Wednesdays kind of bailed. Or not bailed, but they all kind of moved away, basically.
Yeah.
And, everybody that hosts Free House, a lot of people in Philly have been a lot more accommodating to me now, which is cool, which is awesome, because I used to have to, like, fucking just wait until 1 a.m. to get my stage time.
Did you ever give them like a heads up, like message the host?
Yeah, a lot of times if I'm coming down, I'll message someone, and I don't go down to Philly that often anymore. But
I mean, when you did before, was it something that you?
No, because I never. Well, and I always had someone with me. I always had my road dog with me.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember it would be more than one person. I feel like you would sometimes roll.
Occasionally, depending on. Occasionally, we would just bring people with us who wanted to come hang out for the night, like didn't have to work the next day or whatever.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, there was always at least one other person with me, and I kind of miss that. Like that's what I miss about our friendship relationship at that point. You know,
I was about to say, well, that's someone that you I know before you said you don't have a lot of like friends. With that,
well, we just lived together. She was just my roommate.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And that was just by chance. You know, we both needed a place to live, and bad decision on my part.
Now you know these things.
What's that?
And now you know it, sort of thing. Like,
Don't move. I can't live with a woman who's not my girlfriend. Basically, I don't think that's how I operate.
Before me and my current roommate, I was looking around, and one of the prospects was two sisters. I think I'd be able to do it. And then again, I haven't done it before, but I don't know if it would be much of an issue.
I mean, I did it, and we got by just fine, but there was a lot of inner turmoil going on because
I remember you did some of it on stage.
Yeah.
I was like, "This is raw, Andrew."
Yeah,
she's in the room, dog.
Yep. But hey, you know, I don't pull punches, man. When I'm on stage, I push boundaries. No, a lot of ill-advised decisions in that time frame. But you know, you live and you learn. But what I will say is that she was always very willing to hop in the car and go hit an open mic. You know, granted, I was driving and she would just pass out in the back seat.
That sounds all right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Weird. I can't imagine, because I didn't have an easy pass at that point, so we were always taking the turnpike.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what like the toll booth guys were thinking every night. I'm driving through at 2 a.m. with this 90-pound, 5-foot tall girl. Like, if she's lucky, she weighed 90 pounds, you know.
Just in the back seat.
Yeah, just passed out in the back seat every single night, coming from Philly. Like, who the hell knows what those guys thought was going on. I thought, and I've tried to write that into a bit, but there's no joke there besides that. And I'm trying to get, it's so difficult to just write jokes like that anymore. Because I feel like, that was a lot of my style when I started, was like very subtle. Like, you got to pick up on what's funny about this. I'm not directly like telling you what's funny. And that lends to a lot of silence on stage. And for some reason that never bothered me, but now it does. Now, if I have like big pockets of silence, I get like nervous, and I never used to care.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you had a very notable bit about a menstrual cycle.
Were you? Yeah, you were. I tried to do that.
I saw it at Bethlehem and Lizard Lounge.
Okay.
And I remember thinking like I enjoyed that. I
appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that very much, because I love that joke. But there's like 2 minutes in there where it sounds like I'm just shitting on women for like 2 minutes straight. And then
I don't recall it. Maybe that's how some people perceived it. I don't remember it being that. I think it's kind of like when you say, not you but collective you.
Yeah.
Maybe say something racial versus racist. It's like, oh, you're commenting on it, but you're not attacking.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things that I thought for the menstrual cycle joke.
Good, I appreciate that, because that's what I want it to be, and maybe it's just because I'm out of practice, you know, and I haven't been getting up on stage and hitting all the points and everything like that. I don't know.
You feel like because you're not as enthused about it, you're more enthused about this outlet. It sounds like.
I don't know. I still love comedy. This is a lot easier, I'll tell you.
Convenient.
Like that. What's that?
Convenient.
Yeah. And you know, I get like, I think I have 12 like dedicated listeners. Like every episode has like at least 12 downloads, depending on who I have on. Some have more, some have a lot more.
Yeah. But get ready once you drop this one, baby. Get ready.
Well, I just
14 listeners.
I'm going up 14 extra or 14 total.
I'm thinking 14,000.
Ooh, okay, 14K. Sweet.
They're all on my dad's side.
Who? Oh, Joey Tepedino was asking me about that on his episode. He was like, "What would you be ready if like you woke up tomorrow and there were like 1 million views, 1 million downloads? Like, no, absolutely not.
Oh man.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't be ready for that. I can't do a theater right now, like.
Yeah. And that'd be kind of cool if you had that many listeners, but you didn't do like supply and demand. You're like, no, I'm still going to do it like in my room.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go tour with it. They have the link.
Right. They can listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's what were we talking about? I have 12 listeners.
Lost train of thought on the podcast. Oh my goodness.
Clearly you haven't listened to this one.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Are
you gonna edit that out?
No.
What?
I don't do a lot of editing on this unless I say something like really, really offensive. Then I edit that.
Like
out.
calling Nate Marshall a pussy.
Yeah. No, I'll leave that in because he doesn't listen to it. If it gets back to him, hopefully he knows I'm joking because he's already hit me twice and made me cry. So he's already won that fight. He doesn't need to do it again.
I edit on ours. I always get not flack for it, but because I think that's the thing a lot of podcasts do, and it's not to knock it. It's people say it's like, oh, it's like, you're listening to a conversation and there's pockets of silence on conversations. I look at it from like a broadcasting standpoint of like, oh no, it's a show. So like, yeah, like there's a little, like if there's like a notable vocal pause or like things that we could smooth out, I do it. And there's times where I feel guilt about it, but it's not enough to stop me from doing it.
No, there's plenty of people. Most of those broadcast podcasts that you hear, like the really popular ones, that's what they do.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not like super articulate all the time. And there's a lot of editing that goes into those. And I do a fair share of editing on this because I chop it up to like make my format work. But I don't edit out the ums and ahs, and I might shorten silences, but I don't like take them out completely and stuff like that.
Oh, you gotta take the approach and start adding silences in post. Like,
I got like 5 minutes of just noise in the beginning of this, so I can try to filter out some of the traffic and stuff. But
I'm glad. I mean, hopefully, I guess we'll determine after. I hope the sound outside isn't too much.
I think you're gonna be all right, but I'm sitting right by the window. It might pick up on my mic, but fortunately, I'm pretty loud.
Yeah, no, that's. I hope my voice is. There's moments where I'm like, oh, let me like speak up.
No, you're doing the right thing though. Yeah, eating that mic. Because they're again really cheap. And the problem I have is I'll be talking at like this distance, and then someone else they'll be like back here, and it's like, oh man. I've also learned to export in 2 tracks instead of mastering on this thing, and then exporting one mastered track with 2 voices.
Oh. These are things I do not understand, but it sounds like it's probably makes sense.
Yeah. So when you guys record, now we're just talking podcasts, I guess. When you guys record, this is very meta, podcast talking about podcasts. Huh. When you record, do you go right into the computer, like right into whatever program you use?
That's all Pat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the benefits of having a producer.
Yeah.
Alan and I have no idea how to do it. Like,
okay.
Alan and I always like say like, oh, we're going to get a piece so we can like travel and get guests like out in Philly and like go to different spots. No, we just like Pat is he's a part of Property Monics. By the way, did you watch the Oscars last night?
I did not. I'm not much of a awards ceremony kind of guy.
Yeah, they're all meaningless. However, I like movies enough where I get excited for it.
Yeah, I love but that's another thing. I don't see new movies anymore.
Oh,
I don't like go to the theater. I don't. I went to see Star Wars. Opening night, but that was the last movie I saw in theaters.
There were some good movies that came out this year, man. Joker, I feel like you may like that.
I wanted to go see it. What I really wanted to do was write a satire article, because you know how there was like all that concern about the Joker's gonna inspire incels to show up at comedy clubs and blah blah blah. I wanted to write one in the same vein, but about the marvelous Mrs. Maisel and how it's going to make more women show up, and we can't have that.
Oh goodness! Is that going to be one of the things you edit out this episode?
No, not at all. Because it's satire. It's not. I'm not honest. But when that's why I think I remember where I lost my train of thought. We were talking about saying something racial versus something racist.
Right.
I think when my style on stage is very conversational. I don't it's not necessarily obvious that I'm like telling a joke. So if I were to say something racially, like based around race, people are like, or something like that, like we were talking about the menstruation cycle joke.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm very sincere when I'm on stage and I'm making a joke, but if you don't know me, that doesn't come across very clearly unless you're looking for it. You know what I mean? Like it's
that's
until I get to the end and I make
people are standing ovation.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, they're like,
which
whoa.
is it's kind of cool that some of my old jokes are kind of new to a lot of the newer comics at the Lounge because they've only been around for 2 or 3 years, not the whole 5 years that I've been going there. So there's jokes that I kind of stopped doing because I feel like everybody was like, oh, well, I've heard this a million times and I'm trying to come up with new material and blah, blah, blah. Because I put that pressure on myself too.
Do you feel weird telling things like, say you want to work on an old joke, but it's hard to do it if you feel people have heard it before?
Yeah. Yeah. And that depends on the joke because there's some jokes that I've told hundreds of times that still get laughs even from people who have heard them.
Yeah.
Even if they're just like courtesy, like, oh, that's the punchline, I know to laugh there.
It brings me back to a good time and it made me laugh.
Yeah. And I really slowed down on writing, so I feel bad about that. Like I used to churn out new jokes. I would have like 3 or 4 new things to at least try at open mics every week back in the day, but that also comes from doing 15 mics in a week,
Yeah.
Now I'm lucky if I can write one funny sentence, like I can't write. I forgot how to write jokes.
Oh, and
I lost it. And I think that's just from not working the muscle as much.
Andrew, it sounds like you beat yourself up a lot, man. I'll be honest.
Oh, I do. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be above average.
Oh, okay. Which isn't a terrible thing, but at the same time, it's like if your passions aren't laid with writing right now, and it's manifests in the podcast, and give yourself credit for that.
Man, this is you. Yeah, thank you. That's good perspective to have, and sometimes I lose that.
Yeah.
You can be the voice of reason for me. Recently, I had Mike Rainey on. I'm sure you're familiar with him. Oh no, this isn't a video podcast, Kirk. You gotta make noises,
which is why I made a nonverbal.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't want that on air. No, the name sounds familiar, but I don't think I know.
He hosts the Dad Meat podcast with Tim Butterly, and he was part of like the Delco proper crew. Remember all that?
The name sounds. I'm sure he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a super cool dude. And I had him on, and basically the whole like hour, 15-minute long episode was him just like, dude, you're doing a lot more than like most people do with anything that they care about. Like you're devoting your time and effort to this, and like that's commendable and respectable. You got to give yourself credit. And it's just like, damn, all these people making me feel good about myself. I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
I'm used to sitting by myself in a room and shitting all over myself.
Sounds like you got to hang out with more people.
Sounds like I do. That was the whole point of starting this podcast, was trying to hang out and talk to people, build better friendships, relationships with people, stop kind of closing myself off from the world.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because at the same time, there's like, if you're not necessarily stuck in that, but if that's your default, it's kind of hard because that's also comfort. So it's like if you ever want to break out of comfort, that's a difficult thing because you're so used to it.
I am. So like, I don't know in your line of work if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs.
Yes.
I'm sure you are.
I'm familiar with BuzzFeed. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
I also found out what kind of toothpaste I am last week.
Nice. What kind?
Colgate.
Oh, so it's just brands, not flavors.
I'm giving up on this bit. What are you going to say about yours?
Okay. Damn, dude.
You're
good at seeming sincere also. I didn't yes and you there. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Your colleagues at UCB are going to be very disappointed in me.
Yo, Jason, forgive him for that one.
Yeah, please, Jason. Please have mercy on my soul. But yeah. The Myers-Briggs thing. I mean, they made us do it in high school, the personality test, and I've gone to like management seminars for work where they're like, "This is your Myers-Briggs, blah blah blah."
Yeah. I had to do it for marital counseling.
Yeah. So I am I'm an introvert. INFP, I believe, is my letters.
Oh.
But I'm also an extrovert. Like I can switch back and forth between the two of them. So like I can go to a party and be friendly with people and blah blah blah, but I can only do that for so long. Like if I have like 2 or 3 weeks straight where I don't really get any time to myself, I definitely need to take like this weekend. Didn't do anything. Sat in my house, played video games.
Nice.
Like I needed that time to recharge.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's an actual term that's like recognized, but being an ambivert, that's the in between.
Yeah.
I think there's one omnivert. I always forget the meaning of that one though.
Well, omni would be like all is what the prefix means.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what it pertains to. I mean, I'm sure it's some sort of variation of ambivert where it involves both.
Yeah.
Or like I think it's some sort of balancing. I shouldn't speak on it if I don't know enough about it, but
that's all right. We can lead people to do some research or something. Like that's another thing that I love talking about. Stuff that I don't really know that much about, because then it inspires me to learn, and I'm not I don't learn as much as I used to, obviously, because none of us do, I don't think, because unless we make the effort to do it.
I was about to say that's another thing about aging for me. I feel like I'm learning more.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was not a book reader. Shout out to Garfield. I was a book reader. But,
dude, Garfield? Yeah.
Garfield's my jam, man. Yeah.
Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
I loved them both. Far Side also. Well,
I wish I got more into those, but for me, it was Garfield all day, baby. So, but it was literature, but it wasn't until later in life that I started like enjoying novels and like seeking things out, and the idea of like knowing more information.
And now I'm the opposite, where I can't read a book anymore.
Oh.
Not that I can't, but it's really hard for me to retain information when I'm reading a book. Because like I'll read, I'll get down to the bottom of the page and it's like, wait, what did I just read?
Even for novels like fiction?
I'm a little better with fiction.
Yeah.
I used to like nonfiction more than fiction.
Okay.
But if I'm like on Reddit or something like that, or Wikipedia pages, like I can read that stuff like crazy.
Yeah.
Just like straight information into my brain. I love it.
And you retain it when it's on the phone or any sort of electronic device.
Yeah. Or at least I know where to go reference it then. You know what I mean? If I'll retain the important parts. It's kind of like a bit, like writing a bit.
Okay.
You have the dance moves that you want to hit, and then you can kind of just freestyle in between everything.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in that because a lot of people, I've never done like a ebook or anything like that, but a lot of people do that. And I don't know if it's our brains collectively as kind of adapted to not only be able to pick up information, but like our attention spans have been shorter, and just having the screen there, we're kind of like gravitate towards having to look at that. So that's when we're able to fully focus, because if we're not fully focusing on the screen, we're not truly focused. So it's easier to retain information that way because we're getting that gratification at the same time. It's mirrored. Yeah. Whereas like if you have like a book or newspaper, it's like, oh, where's my phone though? There's still that part in the back of your head that's thinking, where is that? Where's the notification? Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, it may be easier to retain that way. And I don't know if that's good for society.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I do know. I don't think that's good for society. Like my personal opinion is that the amount of time we spend looking at screens is not good for us, and there's science behind that. Yeah. But I have one of the like first generation Kindles.
Oh yeah.
Where it's not backlit. It's just like it's almost like a Game Boy screen, and that's not too bad on your eyes. And it's actually pretty comparable to reading a book.
Okay.
But I gotta be honest. They're one of my favorite sensory experiences in life is the smell of an old book, like that musty old yellow pages.
Oh yeah.
We had a closet. We had a Harry Potter closet under the stairs at my house.
Please don't tell me this is where you slept.
No, I slept in the attic.
All right, cool.
In the probably the former servants' quarters.
Oh.
In a haunted house. No, you know.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, well, I won't get into that. That's for another podcast when I have someone on who really likes that stuff. I don't know how you feel about ghosts and such, but
you know, they're there. It was never been something that like freaked me out. And they could. I'm very agnostic in the way of like that could be true,
right.
But I'm not harping on it.
Yeah, I believe in it just because of experiences that I had growing up, like in the house. Yeah, just weird things that I can't really explain any other way. You know,
sensation of it. You got them ghost vibes.
Yeah, well, it's just weird stuff that would happen. Like my parents used to hear footsteps in the attic when no one was home.
Damn,
like no one was up there.
That's wild.
There was a night where this is the big one that I always remember. So my dad redid the whole attic area in this house that I grew up in for me and my brother. So it was probably like the old servants' quarters because it was an old house and it was big, and my parents bought it really cheap in a shitty little town back in the 80s where when they moved there everybody was like, why are you moving there? So yeah, my dad like redid the whole house that I grew up in and made it beautiful, and he renovated the attic, which had like a big open room and then two what he made into bedrooms on either side of like the steps, and then there's a bathroom up there too. So it was basically like a little 2-bedroom apartment for me and my brother.
Very nice.
And we moved up there when I was 12, so he was 15. And there was one night we had like a stereo system out in the big living room area, quote unquote living room area, and I was in my bedroom and I had a touch lamp that was like a globe, and it had like 3 settings. You know, you could touch it and it was dim. You could touch it again, it would get a little brighter. Touch it again, it would get really bright.
I want one of those.
Touch it again, and it would go off.
Nice.
So I'm laying in bed, and it's pretty late at night, and I was kind of half asleep, and I like kind of started awake, and then this light just started going nuts, just like through all of the settings over and over and over, really, really fast, like someone was just sitting there tapping on it. And I wasn't touching it. Now I have read that those can be triggered by like CV radios on trucks,
right,
or CB radios on trucks. And we did live right on 422, so there was a lot of truck traffic. But I don't remember hearing a truck outside at that point because you could hear them. So anyway, I'm laying in bed just watching this light go fucking nuts. Just over and over and over again for like a minute straight. I'm like, I'm kind of getting freaked out. Like, I'm 12 years old. I don't know what's going on. And then I hear the stereo turn on full blast out in the big room, and it's NoFX. Was the first like full album that I bought was NoFX, So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. And that starts off with a very loud, very fast-paced punk rock song, and it is full blast, just blaring. And so I'm like, it took me a little while to realize what was going on, so I like got up, walked out, like turned off the stereo, which there was no way to turn it on unless someone pushed a button or push the remote, like, and the remote was there. Like, I picked it up and turned it off. And the weird thing is no one else in the house woke up, and it was really loud. And I'm like, I just remember this weird feeling of like, no one was going to wake up, like that something was keeping them asleep.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there were, my dad wasn't completely finished renovating, so there were like some boards stacked up on the one wall, and they just all went like fell over. Not like went flying, but the way, so they were leaning up against the wall, and the bottom end of the board that was on the floor is what like shot out from the wall.
This ghost was a dick.
Dude, this
is all in the same time, like the same night?
All within 5 minutes.
That's wild.
Yeah, dude. And I'm, again, 12 years old, and I'm just like, what? So I can't explain that any other way than ghosts, you know.
What do you tell your parents the next day?
No.
What?
I didn't tell. I never told anybody about that.
Is this your first time telling this story? No, I know.
No, not the first time telling the story, but first time on this podcast.
Damn, that's wild.
And then there's I used to see like movement out of the like peripheral all the time.
That's freaky.
Bats would find their way into the attic somehow. Like I caught at least 5 bats over the time that I lived up there, and like released them back into the wild.
That's frightening. I've never actually like saw a bat in person, like up close.
Oh, really?
I'm sure they're adorable and cool creatures, and
they are actually just little like mice with wings.
Yeah,
like people say they're flying rats, but they're adorable when they're up close, but they're freaky when they're flying around and you're trying to catch them.
Oh my gosh, that's nuts.
So there's that, and then one day, like the footsteps, like I said, my parents would hear when I wasn't home. They would hear people someone walking around in the attic.
That'd be wild if like they heard it, but if say you were in the house but you wouldn't hear it. Like the ghosts were very selective in who was hearing these things.
That would be weird. But no, there was one very distinct night I remember, or morning. I was out at a party all night.
Nice.
And this was after high school. When I was just living with them, so I would be out. It would be a crapshoot if I was coming home that night or not, and they knew that. They were just like, "All right, you're an adult, whatever." So yeah, I had crashed at a friend's house, and I came home maybe around noon or something like that, and I walk in, and they're both sitting at the kitchen table, and they're just like, "Oh, we thought you were home. Like we heard you walking around in the attic." And I was like, no, I just got home. So yeah, and then the final one that really, really freaked me out. I was home alone. No one else was home with me, and I'm kind of Tarantinoing my timeline here. This was a little before. This was before I graduated high school. I was in high school at this point. And I was home alone one summer day, something, and the way the house is set up, the front steps are like on the front side of the house. They're like classic like Victorian style steps where you like go up like, I don't know, like 8 steps, and then there's a landing, and then you turn and you go up the other direction, another like 8 steps, and then you're on the second floor.
It's like the ones to get to my room, right? Like the ones you came when. I'm joking. No, there's no Victorian style staircase. So as I was saying, I was like, oh wait, the hallway kind of is like that. That's not going to translate as a joke. Sorry, continue.
Is the hallway kind of like that?
Because there's the landing where it's flat, and then.
Oh yeah, but so to go with that, if you went around a corner and went up the steps so you know what I'm talking about, that style staircase, and that's how the attic steps were too, to go up into the attic. And as you're going up those steps, my room is on the wall, like against the steps.
Okay.
So I'm in my bedroom, and the way my bedroom was set up, my bed was like right where the landing would be, like on the other side of the wall from my bed, from where my head would be, is the landing.
Okay.
So where I lay, where my head is laying, is 8 to 10 feet off of that landing. And right next to my head, 3 loud bangs on the wall. Like loud, hard, like made shit shake on the walls. And I ran out of there. I like ran downstairs, went outside. I was just like, I don't know what the fuck that was. I don't even know where to go right now. Like I called my girlfriend at the time. I was just like, hey, can we hang out? I don't want to be at my house right now.
Was it known that this place was haunted when your parents bought it?
No, I don't think so. And my mom doesn't like that stuff at all. Like she doesn't want to acknowledge that anything could possibly exist like that.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of person she is. She's not like overly religious or anything, but it's just like
spooky.
Yeah, it freaks her out, and she doesn't even want to think about it. And my dad doesn't really talk about it either, and they're moving now. Like they just bought another house. And
they've been in there that whole time? They're still there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
They've been there for longer than I've been alive.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, I guess. Sorry, you said the 80s.
Yeah. So they're moving out of that house now, and my dad's been kind of weird about it. Like he's been like, I've gone and hung out with him. Like my mom will go on like a trip on the weekend with a bunch of her girlfriends or something like that, and it'll just be him, and he'll call me and be like, hey, you know, what are you doing this weekend? I'm just here by myself. You want to come over for dinner, hang out? Like, okay, yeah. And then the one night we got into a conversation where he's like, so do you think like a house is just a house, or do you think it's like an entity and blah, 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 blah? And so I got into my crazy woo-woo stuff with him because I love that. I love the paranormal stuff. That's like where I live. And I'm like, well, you know, there's a lot of wood in here, and there are people who believe that wood can really capture spiritual energy and store it for a long time because of it's part of nature, and it's very porous. It absorbs a lot of things and blah, and you know, so we got into that whole conversation. But that question really like struck me because he retired when we were when I was young. I was in like 4th grade when he retired from his job. And so he spent a lot of time working on that house and being alone in that house. And it's just like,
he probably had experiences too.
I don't know, but the way he worded it, like, do you think it's just a building, or do you think it's like an entity? Do you think it's conscious? I was like, you know, it's hard to say, man. I don't know. What do you think? What are you thinking right now? Like, yeah. So I think it'll be good for them to, one, just change of location after 35 years, you know.
Just move into another haunted house.
Yeah, who knows? They are only moving like 2 miles away, and that house has a weird room in it too. It's got like a bunker in the basement.
I wish your parents well.
Yeah, me too. It was, yeah, but that's me. Those are my paranormal experiences growing up.
That's wild, man. That spooked me out. That put me in a mood.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't think there are any more. I can't really think of any more.
I'm not trying to hear it. If you do, I'm done.
You're done?
I'm not trying to hear that.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, we have made it to an hour. I took us to an hour with the ghost stories.
Oh,
so, nice. Do you have anything to plug? Anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
I always ask that, and then I realize like, this is still only going to be released in like a month.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't like, I caught up to my backlog, and it got really expensive to keep releasing 2 episodes every week because, you know, storage, you got to pay for all that shit. So I'm going back to 1 a week. And so, yeah, this will be about a month.
Okay, that's fine. If you're listening, you want to follow me on social media and see some of my shows. I'll Captain Keith 24 on Instagram and Pinterest and Snapchat.
Wait, you got a Pinterest?
No. I was telling a little joke on your listeners.
Hey, you never know, dude. I have friends who are trying to be TikTok famous. So it's okay. You know, if you want to follow me on TikTok, I have not posted anything. I'm just there to share my friends' music videos. But you can. I'm at Whiskey Hambone on TikTok. I'm at Whiskey Hambone on Instagram, at Whiskey Hambone on Twitter. If you want to follow the podcast, it is I like switched everything up. The podcast is on Twitter. It's at podcast_human. On Instagram, which is probably my preferred medium for this podcast. It is hi_pod. hi_pod.
Oh. So if you're listening to this podcast, literally do exactly what you did to listen to this episode of the podcast.
Yes.
Just do that again.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find us. I'll tag old Captain Keith over here in the episodes.
Yeah, and feel free to listen to Property Bonics if you want some more podcasts while you're doing the dishes and all that. It's been fun, man.
Yeah, it has. And definitely check out Property Bonics. Alan and Kirk have a great rapport. They're super funny dudes.
No.
They were, as I said at the beginning of this, they were 2 of the guys who were around when I first started comedy, and I feel like we've all kind of made this little come up together, and it's cool. I feel like they're part of the old blood. They're part of the old blood in Central PA comedy.
Old blood, gang.
And if you'd like to check it out, Kirk has a lot of interesting ideas for reusing palettes on Pinterest.
I do.
So
follow me on there.
Yeah.
Captain Keith 24.
Captain Keith 24. All right, guys, this has been Human Interaction. I'm your host, Andrew Hambone Hamilton. That's my guest, Kurt Griffiths, with an S. There's more than one of them. Cheer. And I hope you'll come back next time.
We are everyday robots on our phones, in the process of getting home, looking like standing stones, out there on our own. We're everyday robots in control, are in the process of being sold.